Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Insider's Guide on Fixing the Top 6 Issues with J.D. Edwards Inventory Reconciliation. My name is Brooke Bacon, Marketing Lead with GSI, and I am also very pleased to welcome our main presenter, Ed Gutkowski, Chief Architect with RapidReconciler with GSI. And now before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor Statement. And now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we would like to take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then we will turn it over to Ed to get into our main presentation, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, we'll take a minute to go over upcoming educational events, and then we will wrap up with a 10-minute question and answer session. And if you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So if you would like to minimize your console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. And now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. We are a full-service J.D. Edwards consulting organization. We are an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. And we have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, cloud and hosting services, with all of our services backed with a 100% guarantee. We also provide a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for Oracle NetSuite, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. And in addition, we are a product development company that has many popular products, including Genius, which is our advanced monitoring and performance analytics solution for J.D. Edwards or any business critical system on any platform. Genesis, which is our load and stress testing application for system design, validation, or expansion for J.D. Edwards or any web-based business critical system. G Shield, which is our comprehensive security solution for J.D. Edwards, including password reset and two-factor authentication. RapidReconciler, which allows you to effectively manage your inventory in transit and R&V reconciliation for any version of E1 or World. And Rapid Approval, which is our Salesforce App Exchange solution that streamlines the approval process request. All right, thank you so much for your time. I'd like to now turn it over to Ed for our main presentation.
Thanks, Brooke. Let me get this switched over.
Yeah.
So we can see my screen. I think I am good to go.
Perfect. I can see you.
Oh. See me smiling, huh?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, let's get going. And thank you, everybody, for attending the presentation today. Let's get started. Okay, how come I am not? Technical glitch, it seems. There we go. I think I finally got it figured out. So thanks everybody for attending today's webinar, Insider's Guide, Fixing the Top 6 Issues with J.D. Edwards Inventory Reconciliation. So what I'd like to do is start by describing what a typical reconciliation process looks like in J.D. Edwards from an inventory standpoint. So I'm sure that we all have shelves of goods that we manage, we periodically count, and of course, we need to record the value of everything we have on the shelf in the general ledger. Now, what that means, typically at the end of a period, we're forced to do an exercise where we have to balance the values from the inventory subledger to the general ledger. Now, the way we go about doing this is we need to produce some reports out of the system. So first, if I go, I might use the standard on-hand inventory report that J.D. Edwards provides, although in my experience, not too many people use that. They usually develop their own. That report is typically a snapshot that gets run at a certain time at the end of the period, whether it be midnight or whatever, but it's typically scheduled, and you go ahead and pull all your balances. Then the next component to that is we need our trial balance report out of JD Edwards as well. And once we have these two pieces of information, Excel gets involved at some point because the inventory is not broken down by account, right? There's no account number in the inventory system. So typically we have to subtotal by GL and then manually match that up to the balances that are on our balance sheet. And then when we try to do that process, it typically does not go very well. So that's when the frustration begins, and probably the reason most of you are here this afternoon. Okay, so why does that happen? Let's take a look at some of the issues that surround that process and why it is so difficult to balance. The first issue that we'll talk about, and I'll get into the details of each one of these in subsequent slides. But the first one, automatic accounting instructions, our friends, the DMAAIs, I'm sure you've heard that before. That is first and foremost. Then we're going to talk a little bit about GL class codes and how to control them, where they live, and what the proper change process is. Then we'll move on to product costing and what we need to do to make sure our costs in our system are okay. Then we have to have some back-end process controls in place. One subject that is near and dear to my heart, but very few companies actually follow through on this, is making sure that there's some integrity in our cardex. And I'll explain that as well. And then finally, how do I get my inventory report? How is it written? Do I have different inventory reports where if 3 people run inventory, they all come up with different numbers? So we're going to talk about how you can write a report and what you should do. Okay, so let's start getting into some of the details. So first, we talked about DMAAIs, and what we want to know is how accurate are they? There's a lot of things to set up, and what I like to recommend is that you use what's called a model concept. Also, you can use something like wildcards, which are company zeros for the company number and the asterisk for the GL class codes. And what we want to do is limit the use of those. Now, they do come in handy and they are appropriate in certain cases, but a lot of times what I'll see when we do an analysis is that they're overused. And when they get overused, it tends to cause issues. So what do I mean by a model table concept? Well, let's take a look at this chart here, which basically is a list of the majority of the DMAAI tables. So it gives you an idea of how many setups there are. So each document type needs to have DMAAI set up accordingly in order for the transaction to actually work. So what that means is there's a balance sheet and then there's a P&L side for each of the transactions. And I have to repeat a very similar setup multiple times for the balance sheet side. So you'll notice that all the ones in the green blocks there are the balance sheet side of the equation. So what I like to do is to take one of the DMAAI tables, and the one I like to use as a starting point is table 4152 for document type PI, which most companies set up because they need to do physical inventories. And what you'll notice in there is that there is basically a cross-reference between GL class code and balance sheet account by company. So you'll see a company number, you'll see the PI doc type, you'll see the GL class code, and then you'll see the business unit object and subsidiary. So what we want to do is vet that list out and say, okay, here's a list of all my GL class codes that I use, and all the account numbers in reference to those GL class codes are accurate. Then what you do is you take a list of each one of these tables and you compare it to the model, and you make sure that they agree. So if I have a GL class code, for example, that's raw material R001, and it points to the raw material account in 4152 PI, well, it should also point to the raw material account in all of these other DMAAI tables. So that's what I mean by using a model concept. Set up a model that you know is correct, and then go ahead and compare it to the rest of them to make sure that there are no discrepancies. Now, moving on to issue 2, geo class codes and change control in particular. Now, with geo class codes, there are 2 points that I want to bring up. One is levels and where the geo class code lives in JD Edwards. And then how exactly are you supposed to change a geo class code? So first, let's talk about the levels. Where do geo class codes live? Okay, so if I'm talking about an item, the first thing that we need to do is have an item master. So of course, that's the first thing, is setting up an item, and of course the geo class code lives there. It also lives on a branch plant record. So once I have an item master, I could duplicate that record across as many branch plants as I have. Along with that, gets a copy of the geo class code. It also goes down to locations and lots. So we have lot records and location records that also get the geo class. And we also copy them down whenever we enter that item on a sales order or purchase order. So we can see that the geo class code starts at the item master, but quickly spreads into many locations throughout the JD Edwards system. What we want to make sure is that it's consistent. So if on the branch record, for example, I say this item in this branch is a raw material, and I assign it a raw material geo class code, then we want to make sure that that raw material geo class code exists in all the locations and lots and on any open sales or purchase order for that item. Okay, so it needs to be consistent all the way through. Now, if I start and I call it a raw material and it copies down, we're all consistent. But what happens if I inadvertently classified something as a raw material? It gets copied down, I start transacting. Then I want to go ahead and make a change and say, ooh, that actually should have been a finished good, not a raw material. So how do I go about making that change? Now, a lot of people I talk to first pass through, they say, well, I'll go to the branch plant and I'll change it on the branch plant. They don't change it on the locations and lots, and nobody certainly goes back and changes it on the sales or purchase orders. Okay? There's also another big piece that most people miss, and that is adjusting the on-hand to 0. So the proper control process for changing a geo class code is, first, that item needs to have 0 on hand. So if it has any quantity, I temporarily adjust it to 0. I then go and change the geo class code, and then I adjust the quantity back. Now, why do I have to do all of these 3 steps? Well, because if I transacted my example item and I said it was a raw material, as I transacted, all the dollars are flowing into the raw material account. So any balance that I have, the dollars will be in raw materials. If I don't adjust this to 0, and I just change the geo class code, now all of a sudden, this item is a finished good, but the dollars that represent it are not in the finished goods account. They're still in raw materials. If I adjust it to 0 first, now I remove the dollars from the raw material account while the item still has the raw material geo class code. Then I change the class code to finished good. Then when I adjust it back, now the debit goes to the finished goods account. So I keep my inventory classifications and my GL balance in sync. That's why we need this 3-step process to change GL class codes. Issue 3, product costing. 3 things to talk about here. Number 1 is the cost integrity between the cost ledger and the cost components. We'll also talk a moment about WIP revaluation and then multiple cost integrity. So first, the ledger component integrity, JD Edwards has a nice report that will help you with that. You need to make sure that somebody's actually running this and reviewing this periodically. It's report R30543, and what it does is it lists all your items, and you can find any item where the material plus the labor plus overhead plus any of your X cost factors do not add up properly to the final standard cost in the cost ledger. Okay, so you might say, well, how can that happen? Well, I can manually override a cost. There are many things I can do to cause an integrity issue. Now, to understand why this causes variance is the inventory system in the item ledger use the 4105 cost ledger to value inventory. When I run manufacturing accounting to book transactions on a work order, it actually uses the cost components. So if they don't summarize out correctly, then what hits my inventory system is not what hits my general ledger, and I cause out of balance. So this integrity report is important to run. A second item is called WIP revaluation. And there is a process that JD Edwards has added, and you can see the report here, the R30838. And what this is for is if you're running a standard cost system and you have work orders that are in process in manufacturing, and you do a cost roll and you change the standard cost in some items that are out there, what does not happen automatically is those items do not get revalued. Okay, so I can have a work order, there's no material issue to it, the parts list was attached under the old cost. Then I do a cost roll, I create all new cost. When I issue the material to the work order, the inventory system is going to use the new cost, but nothing updated the work in process tables. So it's going to use the old cost when manufacturing accounting runs, unless you run WIP revaluation. Okay, so this is another area where a lot of companies, they either are not aware that this exists or they don't know to do it. So make sure that you have this in your process if you have a standard cost system and you roll your inventory costs, especially multiple times a year. The third thing I want to cover is multiple cost integrity, and unfortunately there's nothing to look for this in JD Edwards. So here's a sample of a statement that can be run across your database. If you get the slides, download it from our website, you will be able to get a hold of this. And what this looks for is any item in your system that inadvertently tags more than one cost method as the inventory value. So every once in a while, I see items where the standard cost is flagged as the inventory cost, as well as the average cost, right? You can't see it on a JD Edwards screen. It's in the data behind the scenes, but it does cause issues. So that integrity report should have been written. We look for it. When we're investigating certain situations inside of JD Edwards, and we have a canned statement that we run to find those things. Okay, the fourth issue, control of back-end processing. We'll talk about 3 different topics here. We're going to talk about manufacturing accounting, sales update, and the GL batch postings, those 3 processes in particular. With manufacturing accounting, it's important that you have 2 versions running. One is a partial version. A partial version means that, let's say I manually issue material to work orders. So it's today, I have this work order out there, I issue a few parts to it, and that's all the activity I've done on that work order today. I've not completed anything, I've just issued some material to it. We need to book those changes through the manufacturing accounting process that night in order to keep things timely. So what you do is you set up something called a partial version, where you don't update the work order status, but Edwards is smart enough to know to say, oh, I did a little bit of activity on that, let me book that today. Okay, I don't want to wait until the work order is fully completed to get all of these transactions booked, right? The cycle time on work orders can range anywhere from a single day to weeks or months it takes to close a work order. So you want to make sure the partials are there so that you're timely reporting your inventory transactions. And of course, the one that everybody has is the full completion, which will change the status and push things down to variance accounting. That one is typically in place. But the point here is that you should have 2 versions running, one to catch the partials and one to complete the full. Now, sales pipeline. Sales pipeline, what that means is there's typically many steps to processing a sales order after I do the ship confirm. So for example, I can ship confirm it, and at that time, my inventory gets decremented. So immediately at time of ship confirm. But I'm not done yet. I may have to produce a bill of lading. I may have to send an advance ship notice. I would definitely have to generate an invoice. And there may be other steps involved before that this sales order actually makes it to a status where it could run through sales update at the end of the day. Okay, so it's important that you know how many sales orders you have at each step in the process, because as soon as you confirm the inventory, the quantity, or ship confirmed, the quantity on hand gets decremented, and you run your balance report, that inventory is gone. The GL does not know that it's gone until it gets to sales update. So you want to make sure that your sales pipeline is clean and everything is pushed through. So you need some type of sales status report to do that. Now, JD Edwards does not give you one. You would have to develop this yourself. Also pay attention to your sales update versions, okay? How the processing options are set up, what dates are being used. Is it a transfer order or a customer sale? All that stuff means different configurations for these versions. So we want to make sure that those are clean as well. Okay. From a GL batch posting, to avoid delays if possible, set your system up where batches are automatically approved and automatically posted. We don't want to have to depend on people doing this if we don't have to. So just ask yourself a question. If you're not on auto approve and you're doing manual approve, have you ever not approved a batch? If the answer to that question is, well, you know what, I've never had to, disapprove or reject a batch, then consider going the auto approve, auto post route. The second point is there's a report, missing header integrity report, that you can run, that sometimes batch headers tend not to get created, or if they do, they tend to disappear. And what that means is when you go to post the batch, if there's no header record, you don't see it on the screen. So JD Edwards has a missing header integrity report. It also has a processing option to automatically regenerate any missing batches, so that if you put that on your scheduler right before the batch postings run, you avoid any conflict because of the missing header. Okay, so moving on to issue number 5. This one's a good one, managing the cardex. So let me give you a little bit of an idea of what I mean by that and what cardex integrity is. So when I'm looking at an item ledger screen in the cardex, I see two different sections. I see this header section up here where I can put in the item branch, etc. There's a quantity, there's a value, and then I see a list of all the transactions underneath. So what we want to do is, in order to do an integrity check on this item, the first thing that we want to do is we want to export these details to Excel, right? And so we can do a grid export, throw them all 10 transactions in this case, into Excel. Then what I can do is I can summarize the columns. I can summarize the primary quantity and make sure it's primary quantity. And I can also summarize the extended amount. If I do that and I get totals on the Excel spreadsheet, those totals will match these balances. Now, these balances on the screen do not come from the total of these transactions. It comes from the balance table. And what you will find is that you will have items where, maybe my quantities add up to 2470 in this case, and I'm missing 4, or I have 4 extra. Okay, my dollars are off. Maybe my quantities are good, but I did something at the wrong cost. Now, all of a sudden, the summary of my transactions does not equal the end value. They need to add up and they need to match. That's how you know that you have a good cardex for this item. If they mismatch, that's variance that's going to creep into your reconciliation, right? So understanding this process, I know that you would have thousands, if not tens, or maybe even hundreds of thousands of items to look at. Okay, it is a difficult process, but there are integrity reports that help you do this. Standard cost versus average. Know what type of system that you have and what you're running. Because when you do this type of analysis, it's a little bit different. If you're doing a standard cost, what you want to do is you can go right down to the location and lot and get specific, and that will add up that way. But if you're doing an average cost, you may only be able to do everything within the branch. So the analysis methods are different depending on the type of costing system that you use. Okay, and finally, issue number 6 is, I have all of this, now I want to write an inventory report. And how do I get it? How do I extract data from JD Edwards to get me the numbers that are accurate? Well, you have two options. The first one we're going to talk about is what most everybody does, and I'll call it a balance-based report. And the key features of a balance-based report are it's just a snapshot. So all I have to do is I go in and I say, okay, give me a list of all the items where the quantity is not zero. Go get me the cost for the item and extend it. That's my inventory. Now, the problem with this is if I had 24/7 operations, I have to stop, right? Because if I don't stop transacting, then my balances are constantly changing. And I'm going to get a clip in the middle somewhere that may not sync, and it will not sync up to the general ledger. So I already create variance there. So the best way to do it is you have to stop operations, okay? Now, if you also have to, as part of a process, backdate or even forward date transactions, that comes into play as well. So if I do a balance, it is what it is at that time based on the balance. If I want to bring dates into play, I cannot use a balance-based system to do that, okay? Because the snapshot is what it is at that moment in time. I cannot mess with that in any way, shape, or form. The second solution is to do a transaction-based report. And basically what that is a summary of transactions. I just add them all up. I can run that at any time because once a transaction is in the system, it's there. It's stable, it's not moving, and it's not changing. Okay. Operations can continue. I don't have to stop producing. All the transactions that were done are in the system. I can add them up. That's what it is. That's the preferred method. Okay. Not that simple. How can you do it? Right. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce our solution to all of this, and it's called RapidReconciler. And what it is, it's an Oracle validated software solution, and it is designed specifically for JD Edwards. We do perpetual inventory, we do goods in transit, and we also do receive not vouchered reconciliations to the general ledger. Okay. Now, the benefits of using this product to do it is all these issues that I talked about, all these top 6 issues are dealt with within the product. So we have reports built in called configuration integrity reports. And we show you any mismatched DMAAIs to the model table. So we use that model table concept. We show you any geo class code inconsistencies. Are all my levels correct? Does everything match up? We will show you any of those frozen cost variances. There's an integrity report for that. Or if you have multiple costs, which JD Edwards does not have an integrity report for. So a lot of this, or most of this stuff, JD Edwards does not have at all. Okay, we also do all of that back-end process reporting. Do I have a work order that's out there that's hung up? Is my sales order pipeline clean? Is there anything in the GL batches that needs to be posted? Are they missing headers? Any of that stuff for any reason? We show that to you all in one convenient place. Okay. We also do transaction-based inventory reporting. We have a calculation strategy where the first time we set up, we calculate a balance forward. We do not use the JD Edwards as of table. Most customers that we have never use that to begin with. Okay, and we found that that proves to be inaccurate. So with that, let me do this. Let me just give you a little brief overview of what RapidReconciler looks like and how all this stuff is put together. Okay, so now here is our RapidReconciler interface with some sample data. So what we do is we import data from JD Edwards into a Microsoft SQL Server database. So we copy data. We never, ever, ever update the JD Edwards system. So all our data captures are read-only. We augment the data in that as we bring your inventory item balances over, and as we bring your cardex balances over, we use the model table concept to assign account numbers to all the inventory transactions. What this allows us to do now is to put these filters here. So now if I want to do a reconciliation, say I have company 10 selected, I have my business unit selected, I want to look just at the raw material account, I can select just raw materials. Okay. I can see my valuation. I can see my perpetual balance, and I can see that I have 3 cents of variance. Now, if you guys had 3 cents of variance, I would think that you probably wouldn't be here. Okay, this is pretty accurate. Okay, so I am able to look at everything, look at whatever I want, whatever combinations of business units, objects, and subsidiaries. It gives me both GL information and perpetual information all on the same screen in the same place. Okay. Now, this is a database, so I am able to go back in time and say, I want to see what my inventory was back here. Notice, perfectly in balance. Okay, perfectly in balance. Now, what we also do is we know where all the sources of variance are. Okay, and what we do is we quantify them inside the variance calculation. So if I had a carry forward, say, and I'm going to go to my graph, and I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'm going to go to this period, and I am going to say, right, I had a carry forward of $202. So that out of balance carried forward from the last period. Now here are all the different variance sources that happen within the period. So GL batches, do I have any unposted batches? Nope, everything's posted. End of day, these are sales orders and work orders that have not been processed. So they're either stuck, they may still be waiting invoices, I have a customer on credit hold, whatever the reason is. And I am able to drill into details and preview them. We also say the transactional variance. The transactional variance is I have transactions that are done, but the amount in the inventory system for that given document is not the same as what hit the GL in the inventory account. We have differences. Okay. We are also able to drill in and show you those differences. So now I can come in and go to view details, and it goes to my transaction page, and it automatically summarizes everything and say, here's my $700 worth of variance. Okay. And it breaks everything down into sales, manufacturing, if there are inventory transactions or purchasing, okay, whether they're transfers, whether there's an account problem, a period problem, order types and document types, as you can see here. Each row represents a document for a specific account. Okay. It does not, at this level, have item numbers and the such. Okay. But what we can do is we can drill even further down. So I can look at this and I can say, I can open up this transaction. It will run a little query. This is an intercompany sales order, an SIRI process. And what will happen is I get a listing of all the detailed transactions for this. It shows, it has a cardex section, a GL section. It shows me everything about the sales order. It shows me about related purchase orders. And it even gives me my AAI configuration for all the GL class codes on that transaction. And I can easily export it all to Excel for analysis. Okay. So I'm able to drill in. We also have a full-blown as of. Now, the as of matches the total that's on the reconciliation page. It will give you a complete listing of all the items, locations, the lots, everything associated with that total balance. Okay, so I can scroll over location, lot, here's quantities, here's amounts. Okay, I also have material, labor, and overhead breakdowns right in the same report. Okay, also have all the sales and purchasing category codes listed here as well. So there's plenty of information. Everything is easily exportable to Excel. And the last thing I wanted to show you was our configuration integrity reports. So we can look at the JD Edwards DMAAIs as they're entered, so we can look for issues without having to query the JD Edwards system. We can say, what does our model table look like? Okay, these are all of the items. These are the GL class codes. These are the balance sheet accounts that are associated with them. With this as the model, what, if any, discrepancies do I have? Notice this has all been cleaned up. That's why you saw on the reconciliation page that I am perfectly in balance. Okay. We have things like, what GL class codes am I missing? What is in my inventory system that I'm not accounting for? All of this NS40, in their case, is non-stock, and it is excluded intentionally. Do I have any unit of measure conversion integrity issues? Am I missing conversion factors? Yes, we need to go get these fixed. Okay. GL class, do I have anything that's mismatched between the branch and the locations? Yes, we have GL class code mismatches. We need to get those straightened out to stop transaction variance from happening. Okay. Frozen cost integrity. Here's where my material plus labor plus overhead does not equal the ledger cost. I have differences. These items need to be re-rolled. Okay. Duplicate item costs. This is the one I was telling you about before. JD Edwards has nothing for this, but we go find it for you. And there's others as well. So there's a whole thing of integrity reports. We check your configuration to minimize the amount of transactional issues you have in the first place. Okay. So that's how RapidReconciler works. It does address all the 6 issues that I was talking about. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn it back over to Brooke, and we'll get to the Q&A after she does a little bit of cleanup here.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate it. That was great. All right. Let me know when you can see my screen.
I can.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much again, Ed. I would like to cover a few follow-up items, and then we will move into our question and answer section of the webcast. Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on JD Edwards, and our upcoming webcasts are currently listed on the screen. And to view our most up-to-date schedule, please visit us at getgsi.com/webcasts. And we provide free extensive educational resources for the JD Edwards community, including weekly educational webcasts, our monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, and so much more. We also have on-site and virtual workshops. And if you'd like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts or our monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access our resource center, you can go to getgsi.com, go to platforms on the main menu and select JD Edwards, and then you can see along here on the left-hand side, there's newsletter, webcasts, and resources. All right, so let's see. I see we have a few questions here, Ed. I just want to remind everyone that if you would still like to submit a question, you can do so through the question panel in the GoToWebinar console window at the right side of your screen. And if you minimized your console earlier, please click the left-facing arrow key to redisplay the questions panel. Okay, Ed, are you ready?
I am all set.
Okay, perfect. So our first question here is from Mark, and he says, how long does it take to get set up?
Okay, to set RapidReconciler up, we do all the setup remotely. So the length of time that it takes is dependent on the server situation at your facility. So we need Microsoft SQL Server running. Most companies, the vast majority, have SQL Server running and have a place for it already. So it takes just a half a day to set it up over the web. Once we get that set up, we schedule an on-site training where we come out. After your data is loaded, we show you what it's telling you, and we go through how to fix the stuff with you. So you're totally trained at the end. So about a half a day to get it set up. Then we schedule a training. We come on site for 2 days, and you're good to go.
Awesome. That's great. Okay, and our next question is from Lacey, and she says, what versions of JDE does RapidReconciler work with?
Okay, RapidReconciler works with any version of JD Edwards from World A7.3 and any version of E1.
Okay, great. And then we have one more question here from Kathleen, and she says, is there any kind of training that comes along with it?
Yeah, we do the on-site. And in addition to that, within our application itself, we have something called RapidReconciler University built right in. And what that is it's a series of tutorial videos and documentation that you have access to anytime right through that web interface. So you have those resources available to you, and we also come on site for that 2-day training that I was talking about earlier.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Ed. That appears to be the end of our questions today. I just want to thank you again so much for your presentation and everybody for their questions. And as a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit, and you will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the recording from today's webcast as well as a copy of the presentation. And after today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone that attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can contact Ed or myself. Our contact information is currently listed on the screen. And we want to thank everybody again for attending our presentation, and Ed for your presentation today. And we hope that you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ed.
Bye.
Bye.